beasts, aren't they? Chuffed to bits. The smallest little thornback. No, I'm just concentrating on not losing the rod over the side. And his eyes. He's got amazing eyes. Doggy in the boat. Golden mullet. There's a bit of weight to that, you know. And that's what we want, don't we? We don't want the same all the time. We want something different, a good old show. Hello and welcome to the channel. I'm on the beach, got 2 rods in the water, and I'm fishing. I'm fishing, December, it's cold, big thermal suit. My buddy Ian Timms is about another 100 yards further along the beach, and we're at Park Shore on the Bewley Estate. Anyone that's interested in fishing this venue, it is a permit only venue. You do have to have a permit to fish here. But it's lovely. There's no one around for miles and miles. You can see all the way down the shoreline that way, round the cove and round the bay. And I'm casting to a feature. We're hunting for flounder, you know. Very rare in the Solent as they are now. But these areas, you got to sort of hunt out and find spots, and there are holding areas for them. So I'm casting to a feature. I'm on a mud bank. There's probably only 3 or 4 feet of water in front of me. Yeah, ragworm baits. Got a variety of rigs. We'll look at the rigs when it comes up for the next bait up, but you know what it's like. You want to get a rod out, you want to get fishing. I'm using a wishbone clip down with bejingle and bejazzle on it, and I'm using a 3-hook loop rig. Might get bassed out, might get lots of schoolie bass today. It's all about keeping a bait in the water long enough for a flounder to find it, and every now and then I'm just going to tease it back. I'm going to tease it back now. So they're very visual hunters, flounder. I'm using plain leads deliberately because I want to seek out gullies and holding spots. But I've just given both of those rods now a little tweak, and all that's done is it's created a little cloud of mud as it's all dragged back, and as that settles, any of the flounder, they sort of bury themselves with just their eyes up above the mud line. They spot the movement and they'll go and investigate. Quite often you'll see a bite after moving the bait. So the plain leads are very important. I'm only using 4 5-ounce weights. At slack I might even go down to 3-ounce weights. I had to dig really deep into my weight bucket to find those. So not casting too far either. 40 or 50 yards. 40 or 50 yards, and that's it. See how it goes, eh? About to do my first bait check, and I thought I'd show you one of the rigs that I've got the choice of using today. And I am varying it a little bit. I'm swapping and changing, seeking out where the fish are, what they're doing. And what this is a wishbone rig. So it's quite simply a piece of line running through a swivel with a hook on either end. I've got soft beads that replicate mussel shells, baby shells. And I've got something that's just a lot of bejazzle as an attractant, visual attractant. And that wishbone element is tensioned by an SRT spring and clipped down to an imp. So before I bait it up, if I just clip it up and you can see the whole rig in its entirety, I'm going to do this as a making on one of the workshop videos soon, I think, because I'm pretty sure I haven't actually had this one on the channel yet. And it's one that I do like to use, just haven't got round to it. Not enough hours in the day. And that's it, all clipped up. Plain lead. I'm not going for distance casting, but by clipping that down, what happens is when you do bait it up, you don't just fire all the ragworm everywhere, you know. I like to leave a long tail. When it's clipped down like that, nice smooth lob, not looking for distance, tends to keep the worm intact. And that's the aim of the game. Want big juicy worms, wriggly tails. Just keeping an eye out. And of all things, I'm not complaining, but of all things, today's ragworm are a bit big. if anything, you don't want, maddies are perfect. Maddies are sort of like estuary ragworm that are smaller than bigger ragworm. You can get king rag. It depends on where it's dug from. And I'm trying to pick out the smaller ones, but at some point I'm going to have to use all of them because I haven't got that much bait today. But you sort of feed your ragworm on. So he's on the hook, hook showing, beads and bejazzles above it. Going to bait up the second one, just check, make sure the hook's all good. It is cold. Keep my hands dry, keep my hands warm. And bait up. Ian, my buddy, has just caught a stonking bass. He's going to bring it over to the camera to show. What a cracker, mate. What a stunning fish. That is stunning. Right, more important than baiting up and showing the rig, let's have a look at Ian's fish, because that is a cracker. I bet that went like an absolute train. That's bristling, isn't it? Yeah. Do you want to unhook it? Or I just mentioned it to the camera, I'll show. He's a stunner, isn't he? Mate, that's tiny as well, isn't it?
Okay, buddy.
Alright, bud.
That's probably here, Mark, not so, don't you?
Oh, wow, she's stunning. Well, excuse me for the pause. Ian's chuffed to bits. He's a bit camera shy. Look at the paddle on that. That's a lean fish as well. That is an absolute stunner. I'm not trying to make it look bigger by pushing it into the camera. I just want you to be able to have a look at that. Look at the size, it's cavernous. That is a stunning fish. Did that actually take your rod? Did it pull your rod over on the stand? Yeah. Let's have a look just very quickly. We're very keen to get this fish back in. But that was the size of the hook it took, because we're flounder fishing. Cheers, buddy. Do you want to do the honours, or do you want me to put it back? You're right? Yeah, okay. Right. Sorry, because it's not my fish and I'm not trying to steal his thunder, but Ian's just landed that, and that is an absolute stunner of a fish. Right, let's get it back in the water. I'm going to take the camera down as well. There we go. Wow. I couldn't go any deeper. I couldn't go any deeper because I've got trainers on, but she swam away strong. I'm going to say she because she was so pretty. What a stunner! Not the best release, I know, but definitely went away strong. Ian. There's Ian in the background there, look. Beavering away, doing his fishing. So in the middle of my baiting up, Ian's top trumped me with that stunning bass. I just love the way once they start the paddle, you know, they sort of, and then they're gone. It's that whole sideways movement. They look gorgeous. So where were we? Right, back to rigs. I don't mind being disturbed like that. Clip down, wishbone rig. So when that's laying on the bottom, plain lead, seeks out the gullies, little tweak every now and then just to move it along, put some movement into the bait, and then the whole thing gets clipped down, and when it's fired out, gets ejected, and then you've got all of that working in the current. I want one of them. I want one of them bass now. It's December, so it's catch and release. That was a cracking fish. Still beavering away, refreshing rigs, casting out. I've got one 50 yards out and one about 30 yards out. So it's all, we're nearly at the, we're about, in fact, let's have a look. What time is it? Just as I thought, we're bang on high water. Ian's just been smashed up, beat up again. So he's been hit by something. It's probably a decent sized bass. I'm not going to change my rigs because I could put like a pulley on or something with a nice pennel rig, chuck a whole squid out there. That might come as a shot to nothing on one rod if I'm close to a blank. But I'm really holding out for a flounder. I'd love to catch a flounder today. It's quite telling that when you reel in, there's quite a lot of seagrass on the line. So the seagrass obviously is pushing back, and once it snags up on the line, it hits the shock leader knot. It won't go through the eyes. Left hand rod is probably only 30 yards out. Right hand rod, like I say, probably about 50 yards out. And we'll see how it goes. Haven't had a bite yet. Ian's teasing me. He's definitely beating me up. He's done much better than me. That was a stunning bass earlier on. Absolutely stonking. And he thinks he got hit by another one just a minute ago. Lifted up into it and it wasn't there. It's so tempting just to fire out a whole squid. I have got some squid in the bucket. Just, you know what I'm like? Oh! Big hooks, pennel, whole squid. Get him out. I'm not. I'm being good. I'm being good. Still putting my little ragworm on my little hooks. Trying for a flounder. Stunning day though. Absolutely stunning. The weather forecast today was no wind. I don't think the wind read it. As long as you're in the lee of the wind's coming from that way. This is how you rig your shelter. Always put the back facing into the wind. Yeah, I don't think the wind actually read the weather forecast this morning. Because the wind's picked up, it's got a chilly, you know. So I'm just having a look at this rig. This is the loop rig. It's very hard to show on camera, but I'm going to try. Because they're always better when they're hung up and they're doing their thing. I know I've got my back to my rods, but if one of the rods disappears or if you spot something, give us a shout. Everyone's pinned to the screens now, looking at the rods. It's behind you. Right, so I'm just loading up a ragworm on what is the loop. So the loop sits at the bottom of the rig. So there's the weight, and even though it's attached above the weight, the bait, fishes below the weight. Gets a little bit confusing, that bit, to me, because some people say that it's only truly fishing below the weight if the weight's above it. That in my mind is still fishing below the weight. And it's on an adjustable rig. That is a flat lead so that I can tease it back and put some movement into everything. And I've just loaded that single hook up with a ragworm. The interesting part to this really is that cascade swivel. And it'll become clear in a minute. So I'm going to work my way up. These things always try and embarrass you and tangle. I'm going to leave that piece of squid that I fed onto the line, but I am going to refresh the lugworm. And it's frozen black lug that I have wraps of. Get one out. It's not quite Blue Peter with one that I've prepared earlier. Really sticky, tarry black lug. And all I do is put it on the hook, twist, put it on the hook, twist, put it on the hook. It's repetitive, I know. Working it up the hook. And what I'm going to do, I've put some of that on now, just tease it above the knot. I do want an element of a tail, so I don't want to put all of it on. I want to make this flow in the current and be as enticing as it can be. I think that's about enough. Put a bit more above the hook. So when the squid strip sits down, I don't know if you can see that clearly, the squid strip sits down over the body but flows, and the the lugworm flows. So that's one bait, refreshed. And then the top hook, again, I'm not going to change that strip of squid. It's more visual that than anything. You could argue put fresh on, Mark. Being a bit lazy. Another black lug. I think this is where all the attractant comes through smell and taste. I think the visual comes from the squid. So Feed and twist, feed and twist, feed and twist. Keep going, get it all on. Doing about 10 mil at a time. Lever tail. Pull it above the knot, which will help to lock it into place. And then the squid strip sits down over the top of it. Everything's moving around. What I'm not going to do now is show you how I clip it up, because I can only really do that when it's going onto the rod. So we'll look at that bit in a minute when it comes for a bait change. Keep your bait as good as you can, keep it covered. The wind will dry it out as quick as sun, if not quicker, I believe. So that is the entire rig, he says, as it decides to get itself tangled up. The bottom loop is about 3 foot long, and the two snoods 10 to 12 inches. Just long enough that they don't interfere with each other, but all three baits, you can imagine the attractant that's going to do when it's flowing in the current. That's the next bait that's going out. See if I can replicate what Ian did earlier on with that stunning bass, eh? While still fishing for flounder. The target is flounder. I had my tomato soup. Oh, what a treat. A whole flask of tomato soup. And once I started, I couldn't stop. So my body's like a furnace now. I'm really, really warm, but I'm conscious that with that wind chill, it could get cold quick. So I'm saving my hand warmer. I might light it in a minute actually. Get my hand warmer out and try not to set fire to myself. I should have mentioned to Mrs. W actually that I'd like another one for Christmas. Then I can have one in each pocket. It's a Zippo, a proper hand warmer. It's not a lighter, and I've got like a Storm, one of these super duper lighters, because if anything is going to heat it up, it's got like a catalyzer, catalyzer. I think that's what they call it. But it needs to be brought up to a certain temperature and then it'll be self-sustaining. So it's just giving it a bit of Yahoo with the lighter. You can see it's starting to glow. And it has to go in the bag. It's got a little bag, a little Zippo bag. I think because it does get really hot. Like proper full on hot. And that's it. Lighter goes back in my bag. Hand warmer goes in the pocket. Happy days. Please excuse the fact that it's a little bit windy. Difficult to set up and show on camera. But I go to the loop part at the bottom of the rig and hook it up. And follow the rig up. And what you find is I'm deliberately facing into the wind so I can't do anything about the sound. If you hold that with the wind, whichever direction you're working with, work with the wind and use it to your advantage. It will help you to form the rig, to clip it up. So I clip the first of the cascades up. The wind is pushing everything around, and then holding the hook snood, follow it up the body and leave the loop. So the loop is now trailing in the wind, it's just in the wind now. We go to the next snood, which funnily enough had hooked itself into the cascade. We hold all that in tension, and this is the top snood now. We offer it into the cascade, follow it up to the top, and that's us done. So that rig now is fully clipped up, but that bottom loop is a 3 foot loop. And when that detaches, the top two will fish as normally, like a clip down rig, but that bottom one will almost be fishing as long as when we're fishing an up and over. And that is the point of this rig. The top two will help to search out bass, whilst the bottom one's still searching out the flounder. The other rigs that I'm putting out The wishbone rigs that clip down, they're for flounder, pure flounder. That's what I'm aiming for. And they got all the bejazzles on. That's the plan. Gonna fire this bad boy out. No big beefy cast required for this. This is just going to be a gentle flick out. Just check and see where my other line's fishing at the moment. Nice and gently. 40 yards, 50 yards at max, I think. That's the distance I'm fishing. We'll see how that bait gets on. Tucked in out of the wind. Didn't bring a seat or anything like that today. I thought because I've got my big quilted suit on, it wasn't really the need. I do like using the rucksack. Rucksack's good. I got that from Clive Painter. Clive Painter put me onto a rucksack and said, you know, have I tried it? And I was like, not really. Always thought you had to have a fishing box, you know. Just one of those things, everyone's got a fishing box. Well, actually, when you've got to walk a little ways, a rucksack's much better. And the rucksack I got, you unzip and it opens from the back, not from the top. So I think the biggest thing that puts people off using a rucksack is the fact that you've got to dive in and try and find something. Whereas if you unzip the back and the whole back opens out, it's all there. You can see everything. Brilliant. So, keeping warm, hot drinks. I've had my soup. Soup worked a charm. That's another thing that I seem to have forgotten about in the past, you know. Got so fired up with a flask of coffee and some sandwiches or a pie or something like that. I need to remember, you know, you can have hot food on these cold days. Hot food makes a whole world of difference. Just that tomato soup. I preheated the flask, and when I put the hot soup in it, it stayed really, like, I like it when it's scalding, you know. I don't like it once it starts going a bit lukewarm. Because that was preheated flask, that's still scalding. And it's much better. So why am I jibber jabbering? Well, it's not happening for me at the moment. Anything can change. I've still got baits out there. But for some reason or another, I don't know if it's my after, I don't know if the fish can smell old COVID. Look at that, whoa, don't go near that guy. He's had that stuff, you know? But no, joking aside, Ian, absolute dancer, good angler. That bass that I showed earlier, not my fish, absolutely not my fish. It was all Ian, a bit camera shy. Wanted to put it on camera because I could see it as he was walking up the beach. Proud as punch, you know, big smile on his face. Come over. Yeah, he's fishing for flounder as well. And he winkled out one of those bass. About an hour later, that sun's just come out from behind the clouds. Really bright, it's lovely. With my sunshine yellow shelter. Where was I? Yeah, so an hour later, I'll get distracted. An hour later, he got hit hard, rod buckled over, lifted into it, dropped the fish. Didn't drop the fish, it didn't develop. That's the proper way of saying it, because he didn't drop anything, you know. He's fishing smaller hooks for bottom feeding fish. It just so happened that bass has found it. So I think I'm going to zoom my next one out. I've played around, I've done the clocking system. Anyone that doesn't understand that, I've clocked the water in front of me. So I've done it in portions, and I've done it at different distances as well. Trying to search the fish out. You don't just plop it in the same place and just hope. You know, you can actively search. So you start to your left and you work your way around. The other rod's fishing at distance, and it doesn't matter if the lines cross over, because one's short, one's long. And when I say that, there's a difference of about 20 yards between my casts. I'm actually going to zoom one. So I know about 120 yards out, there's a bank, because it's exposed at low tide. And between me and there, closer to the bank, there's a gully. So I'm going to zoom a bait out there. And if anything's going to be there, my guessing it'll be a bass. Because they'll swim through that gully. So I've done everything I can to try and catch a flounder. I am going to put one rod and zoom it into the gully. Just see if I can save the blank, eh? Just baited up and put the rods out again. Just done a swap over, you know, and clipped on, clipped off. I basically run 3 rigs. So the two that are on, you know, and then what you do is you prep this one, get it all ready, reel in, clip on, take the other rigger, cast it out, clean the next one up, and so on and so on. If you run 3 rigs constantly like that, it maximises the time that there's a bait in the water. And that's what we want, because that's how you're going to catch fish. Albeit, today it looks like I'm on for a blank, if I'm completely honest. Ian's done the business, he's landed one, he got hit by one. I haven't had a touch, not even a knock. That's fishing, not catching. So what's the plan? So this is, I'm probably going to refresh the baits and then fish it out. So we've probably got about an hour before we're going to pack up. I've zoomed both of these. Those reels are amazing. Absolutely fine. You know, I'm no caster by any shape or imagination, but I do enjoy using these. Absolutely fired them as far as I could. It felt good to me. Someone else will look at it and go, you could double that, mate. But it's good for me, gets me where I need to be. Yeah, so we're probably going to do bait refresh. I'm going to put some fresh worm on those, cycle round once more, fish those out, and then pack it up for the day. So as always, you know, I'm going to come back with something if we catch something. But other than that, it's been a cracking day out. Just enjoyed it. Just the fresh air, just being out. No one's out even walking. No one's walking their dogs. No one's out walking. Not seen any other anglers. Got to make best use of days like this when it's like this. It's a lovely winter's day. Absolutely stunning. Feel refreshed and invigorated for being out, you know. Love it. Time's caught up with us. So the tide is in full retreat now. So it's time to pack up. A blank for me today. It happens. It's fishing. Stunning fish for Ian earlier. A lovely winter bass. Really lean, really strong fish, that one. Yeah, just had to fend off a dog from trying to eat my bait. I think he managed to find one of the old black lug. He ate that. That's going to go through it like a Porsche. I don't think it's going to be a long time until that re-emerges. So yeah, time to pack up. Tomorrow night, different venue, nighttime fishing, sandy beach with a gully and surf. So a different scenario altogether. Going to make some rigs up specific for that tonight, and I've got something I want to try. I've got something in mind. And yeah, so I'm going to pack up. As always, it's been a pleasure, never a chore. Love spending time with you. Feel free to comment, please, below. I love the interaction. It's not a push for numbers, subscription, thumbs up, thumbs downs, you know, knock yourself out. do whatever takes your pleasure. But really, the interaction is amazing. So if you spot something that you do differently, it's up for discussion. If you think there's things that I can change, adjust, do better, if you fished this venue before and you fish it in a different way, if you present your baits in a different way, get typing. Put it in the comments. I read them all, I genuinely do. I respond to everything that I can. If you've got questions of me, if you've got hints or tips that can help me, these past 2 years with the channel has helped my fishing immeasurably. I've really enjoyed the interaction. The interaction is amazing. Met some amazing people as well. But I'm off again, and I'm jibber jabbering. I've got a job in hand. I'm going to start packing up. All it leaves for me to say is take care, tight lines, happy fishing. From me, from here, for now, it's goodbye. Take care, and I'll see you soon. All the best.